Now, anyone watching who has given birth knows it is a beautiful experience, but it can also be a scary one. No matter what your plans are for the perfect birth, things can take a turn for the unexpected. Someone who knows this firsthand, our very own Shobana Lakkavally. So she gave birth to a baby girl this past December and is joining us now to share her very unique birth story for the first time. Come on in and have a seat. I can't believe out of all the times we've talked, we've never talked about this.
I know, right?
How did this never come up? Like, thank you so much for your willingness to share this story with us here on Cityline. Walk us through your labor and how it was, things didn't quite go as planned.
No, they didn't. I ended up having my baby girl in a car.
Oh, gosh.
And, you know, I have to preface this by saying that Sophia, my first daughter, it was a 19-hour labor, and it was painful right from the beginning, right?
Yes.
I know the second one's like a little bit shorter and faster, but I didn't know how fast that was going to be. And so it was, you know, within our delivery period, it was Christmas Eve, we're getting our stuff together, and I started feeling these little pains.
Yeah.
But I didn't know, like, if they're Braxton Hicks or, like, you know, pretend cramps. And as I was monitoring them, they started intensifying. And so I knew. I was like, Mike, cancel the plans.
Yeah.
We're giving birth.
Was this around her due date?
4 days. 4 days.
4 days before.
4 days before her due date. So she was expected. She was expected.
Absolutely.
And so Mike was giving me breakfast. He was getting ready to go because they were still gentle, like, kind of contractions. And with Sophia, they were so strong from the beginning that I'm like, oh, this is how normal, you know, labor is, right?
Yeah.
But there's no such thing. There's no such thing as normal, Tracy, okay? Because all of a sudden, literally a switch went off, and these contractions almost felt like they were going to blow my body apart.
Oh my gosh.
Right? So I call my midwife. She's like, yeah, you need to come to the hospital now, because usually they'll come to your home sometimes or they'll meet you at the hospital. So she's like, come to the hospital. So I'm walking down the stairs, and as I'm walking, these contractions are paralyzing me. So I'm holding on to Mike. We have 3 floors, okay?
Oh,
3 floors.
Yes.
And they're paralyzing me, and I'm saying bye to Sophia, and she's like, what's happening?
What's happening?
And I'm getting into the car, and literally, I lose control of my bowels, right? And I think also my water broke at the same time.
Oh, my gosh.
And Mike says to me, he's like, oh, do you want to go up and change? And I was like, what? I'm like, excuse me?
It's not a great time.
It's not a great time. I don't care how I look or smell. Just drive the car, right? So we're 20 minutes away. Poor guy is like, you know, he stresses out when he drives generally, but with a pregnant lady in the back, he's like being strategic, but trying to get there fast. And, you know, it's a rental, right?
Yes.
So we're like, we gotta keep it, like, you know, together, right? So at one point, the contractions got so bad that I had to start lying down across the back, holding onto the passenger seat. And I'm trying to breathe through it using my hypno-birthing training, like just meditating. There's no hypnosis or anything like that. And finally, this huge contraction comes through, Tracy. It has to be the most painful experience in my life. It's like a big rock being pushed out through your butt, and you have no control of it, okay?
Oh
no
my
control.
Gosh.
And I said to Mike, I'm like, I think that's the head. And he's like, no, it can't be. And I said, in hindsight, I'm like, okay, yeah, because I'm the laboring woman. And this guy's like, oh, it can't be the head. I'm like,
it can't be the head. We just got in the car.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a rental. It's fine. It's fine.
Not the time.
Let's just go to the hospital.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So again, I'm bracing myself, have another huge contraction.
Yeah.
This is like, you know, what they call like the ring of fire. Like you literally feel like you're going to be broken
The crowning.
apart. Exactly.
A head is coming out of you.
Exactly. Right. And I'm like, okay, if this is not it, then what is? How does that feel like?
Yes.
And so I get over this contraction. I'm bracing myself. I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be at the hospital. I don't know if I'm going to be meeting God today. Like, what is going to happen today? And Mike's like, did you hear that noise? What's that noise? And I'm like, what? And it registered to me that I'd heard a wah.
Where was the baby, Shobana?
I felt the weight in my pant leg.
The baby was in your pants.
Yes, in my pants. I was wearing my friend Tia Buva's pants, and they were these stretchy, like kind of yoga pants, but like a little bit thinner, and they acted as a sling. Oh my God. So I literally just reached in and grabbed this newborn, you know, kind of slimy baby. We looked at each other. We're like, okay, you know, we got this. The girls got this. This huge umbilical cord is just like, you know, around.
It's a rental.
It's a rental.
Never mind. Sorry. Keep going.
Yeah, and there's lots of fluids everywhere, right?
Just buy it at this point.
Exactly.
It's ours now.
Exactly. So I literally, like, in broad daylight, I had to rip off my shirt, you know, take off my bra, whatever. I'm doing skin to skin with the baby.
So your mother, like, your instincts kicked in immediately.
100%.
Because you pulled a baby out of your
100%.
pants.
I didn't even pull her. Oh, yes, out of the pants.
Out of the pants.
Yes.
And you knew to put her on your chest,
Yes.
on your body.
Yes.
Did she start nursing right away?
You know what? I tried actually.
Wow.
Yeah, I was like trying to get her to nurse. She did a
Yeah.
little bit. She was like on and off.
Yeah.
And you know, we were driving. Mike's like, "What do I do?" And I'm like, "I just gave birth to a baby.
You
Can
figure
you
it
figure it
out."
out? Like, please." I'm like, "Just pull over and call the midwives."
Right.
And so we pulled over. I'm looking at the Waze. I'm like, "There's 5 minutes to the hospital." I'm like, "Get in the car."
Yeah.
We're just driving to the hospital. So he's like wiping away tears, and then he's like, "Well, what's the sex of the baby?" Because we didn't know what the sex of the baby was. So
Yeah.
you know, I had that moment where like I pulled her up and I was
Yeah.
like, "It's a girl."
It's a girl.
And he's like, "Okay, put a jacket on her to keep her warm."
Absolutely.
And of course, I had this like brand new white winter jacket. So I pulled that winter jacket on her, and then we, you know, drove up to the hospital. And the man was gonna park, and I'm like, "Can you just drive up to the front?"
There's no time.
There's no time.
Okay, so you have the baby, you've done the skin to
Yes.
skin, you put the jacket on Mila, and you are at the hospital now, and
Yes.
there's a whole other next layer because
100%.
there are people waiting for you here.
There are people.
Not even to mention the fact that you had COVID before you even had this baby.
Exactly.
So you're here and you're at the hospital. What happens next?
Okay, so Mike runs in and he tells them my wife just had a baby
Yeah.
in the car. So they call it code pink. There's like 20 people from the department, including the head OB,
Yeah.
that comes, you know, to help me. I did feel a little bit special. It was like
Yeah.
my paparazzi moment.
God, well,
right?
you should feel special. You had a baby in the car.
Exactly. They came, and I think they were all just relieved and happy that we were just safe. We were.
Yeah.
It wasn't a traumatic experience for me.
It wasn't?
No, it was a beautiful experience. I always wanted to have a
Aw.
natural birth.
Yeah.
And this, you know, this forced me to do so.
Yes.
And it was so beautiful because it was peaceful. It happened. You know, there was no one telling you to push or not
Yes.
push or stop or we're going to hook you up to this. You know, do I get an epidural? Like there was no thinking involved. I think it was just so pure in that experience, although it happened in the back of a car.
Yeah, but there's something actually really beautiful about that. So many moms will hang on to, and I'm one of them, hang on to the way it should have been.
Yes.
This was not the way it was supposed to be.
No,
and it's really
no.
hard. Like, I find it's hard to have that flexibility and be like, well, this is my experience
Yes.
and this is what I have to be okay with.
Yes.
But you leaned into it.
100%.
You're like, it's okay.
I
it
would not
happened.
have wanted it any other way.
Amazing.
And you know what I'll tell you, Tracy, when I, you know, went into this whole like getting pregnant thing,
Yeah.
I didn't commit myself to anything because pregnancies are all so different
Yeah.
and they vary
Yeah.
and they're unpredictable. I didn't
Yeah.
want to be disappointed. So for me, it was like, as long as I had this healthy, safe baby, that's
Yeah.
fine. Like I had a birth plan that kind of
Yes.
helped me navigate making decisions ahead of time, which I think was really, really important. But you know, what I didn't plan for, I thought we were all good, right? We
Yeah.
delivered the baby. I'm like, this is amazing.
sounds amazing.
Hold on, let's have
Everybody's-
another one. Yeah. And my placenta didn't deliver.
So then what do they have to do?
So I still had to go into surgery, and they still had to give me anesthesia. And it was hard for me because of COVID, I had breathing trouble. So I had trouble talking
gosh.
and walking for long distances.
Yeah.
And so it was trouble. Like I had trouble breathing, and they had to take me to surgery. And I feel like for me, you know, that was the most traumatic moment only because I thought it was done.
Yes,
Right?
yeah.
I thought like the ring of fire, that was it. It was all done. And
Yeah.
so they had to like scrape my uterus to make sure they got all the placenta out. And you know, sometimes that can be really intimate and you become very vulnerable because those are the organs that help create a baby. So you don't know in the future how that's going to impact reproduction. Right?
Absolutely. And you had to be awake for that.
And I had to be awake for it.
Why?
Yeah. I'm not sure. I don't remember.
I wonder why.
Yeah, I think maybe if they had the option of just using like a local or like, you know, anesthesia that can keep me up,
Yeah.
maybe they preferred that. I prefer that over having to be fully put out
Got
personally.
it. I don't
than
want to
staying out.
see or hear anything. I don't want to hear no scraping.
You know
put me
what?
out.
You're right. I heard too much.
Right?
I heard too much. I was like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And so that was a little bit traumatic. But you know what helps me kind of keep it together is that we had this beautiful Christmas surprise.
Miracle.
A miracle baby, right?
Yeah.
And it's funny because we had named her Lightning. Sophia had named her Lightning before she was born. And she came out just like lightning.
Like a bolt of lightning.
Like a
Listen,
bolt of lightning.
Shobana, the story is incredible. And the more I talk to you, the more I realize you really are an earth mama.
Yes.
Vegetarian from birth.
Yes.
Baby in the backseat of the car, and you just handle it. You just flow through life. You just flow through, and I think that is such a lesson for so many of us. I don't flow, so I would love to learn some of that. This story will help me flow. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Thank you for having me.
And I'm happy both girls are healthy and happy at home.
Me too.
Yeah,
Me too.
fantastic.